Out of curiosity, can you tell me when Hitler, on his first day in office, signed in an executive order to stop the government from censoring speech?
Lock your flat, niggas. Maggie don't know what the fuck she talking about. Donald Trump is not fighting against government censorship. He's fighting for the support for misinformation.
And then they tell all women, they fearmonger them into thinking that there's going to be an abortion ban. Meanwhile, his policy is very clear that he would never enact one. He would veto one if one was enacted. He's always supported the 3 exceptions.
Abortion bans have been left up to the states, and it's restricted women's access to abortion even in instances in which they've been
God's plan to show y'all the liar.
It makes me laugh how confident she is in this statement because Jesus was literally not an illegal immigrant. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Patchwork Podcast. So this week I thought I would talk about debunking leftist arguments through some woke TikTok. I feel like I have experienced a large amount of responses to people disagreeing with me for all sorts of things, and a lot of the times their arguments actually seem like they make sense. I used to hear these things and be like, wait, that's a really good point, until you really think about that and you try to put those ideas out into the real world and they don't actually work. A lot of times they use a very tiny truth and then turn it into a lie to try to convince you, and they try to pull at your heartstrings and your morals to convince you to go to their side. But I am here to tell you all of the reasons that they are wrong. But I thought it would be fun first to start out with a guy that tried to debunk one of my videos I posted onto TikTok, and we are not only going to be debunking him back, but we are going to be debunking him back better. So for context, the lie that I was debunking in this is that Trump is Hitler. It seems actually insane to me that I've had to continue to defend this point. Hitler was a fascist. He took complete control over Germany in a violent manner. He took away everybody's rights to free speech. He didn't care about the actual people. He did a mass of over 6 million people. And they are trying to compare Trump to this man simply to scare people. And so I made a video about it.
Out of curiosity, can you tell me when Hitler, on his first day in office, signed in an executive order to stop the government from censoring speech?
Lock your flat, niggas. Maggie don't know what the fuck she talking about. Donald Trump is not fighting against government censorship. He's fighting for the support for misinformation. I mean, in one of his speeches, he goes ahead and says that the government will no longer label things as misinformation or disinformation.
I've already made a video to this, but fact check number 1, I do know what the F I'm talking about when it comes to this particular issue. That's actually exactly what Trump is fighting against. On his first day in office, he signed in an executive order restoring freedom of speech and ending federal government censorship, like the Biden administration did to us for 4 years. I think that's the funny thing too. They are out here saying he doesn't care about free speech when we actively witness the Biden administration lying to us day by day about his mental and physical well-being. They lied to us about COVID. They lied to us about the border. They lied to us about having the best economy in the world. Let's just be honest about it. Trump has lied many times in the past. I have no problem saying that. He's said bad things about women. He's done very immoral things in his marriages. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to defend the Republican Party. We have so many flaws within it. But I'm not going to also sit here and let you lie to people calling Trump Hitler. So what the policy actually does is it secures the rights of the American people to engage in constitutionally protected speech, ensuring no federal government, office, or employee censors the speech of any American citizen, as it is our constitutional right, which once again means no more misinformation strikes simply because you disagree with the current president in office. That goes out to Republicans and Democrats.
The government will no longer label things as misinformation or disinformation. And we can actually see this with Donald Trump's allies. Since Elon bought X, we see an increase of misinformation being spread. Even Mark Zuckerberg is no longer going to use fact checkers in his apps.
So the reason he said that about Mark Zuckerberg was because he openly admitted to the government pressuring Meta to censor any content related to COVID that disagreed with the former president's beliefs on COVID, even down to jokes about COVID-19. And yes, of course, there's going to be an increase of misinformation spreading on X whenever you actually allow free speech and everybody to say whatever they want on a news platform. Of course, you are going to experience more misinformation. Elon as well brought in a ton of people that have been banned off the app because he so heavily believed in free speech. They still have fact checkers on the app. Also, it takes a while to undo the censorship within the coding. Even on Meta, how Zuckerberg said that he's no longer going to be censoring stuff, that takes a very long time to get rid of all of the different things within the code that's trying to censor different words words, phrases, and speech among the users on the apps.
And if you really think about it, Hitler and Donald Trump are basically doing the same thing. Hitler was using censorship to spread his ideology, while Donald Trump is trying to use misinformation to spread his ideology.
When he signs an executive order restoring accountability to policy influencing positions within the federal workforce.
Do you even know what the fuck that means? Trump wants the ability to fire people that he can't fire if they're not focused on his agenda.
So I actually do know what the F that means per our Constitution. Article 2 of the United States Constitution vests the president with the sole and exclusive authority over the executive branch, including the authority to manage the federal workforce and to ensure effective execution of federal law. Accountability is severely lacking in our current federal workforce, and it is Trump's job as president to keep everybody accountable that is working for the tax-paying American. The screenshot you provided literally says only 41% of civil service supervisors feel confident they can remove an employee who engaged in insubordination or serious misconduct, and only 26% are confident they can remove an employee for poor performance. That's the dead weight that Donald Trump wants to get rid of.
Or when he signed an executive order holding former government officials accountable for election interference.
What fucking election interference?
You mean the ballot boxes being burned, hiding the Hunter Biden laptop story, or censoring millions of Americans amid the COVID crisis? But you're right, there was no election interference.
And improper disclosure of sensitive governmental information.
Didn't Donald Trump do that when he had government information in his Mar-a-Lago home?
Yes, and so did Joe Biden, and they were both in the wrong for doing that. Once again, I'm not going to sit here and defend every mistake Donald Trump has made simply because I voted for him.
When he delayed the TikTok ban for 75 days so people could keep their jobs and continue making money off that.
You do know that's because of the Biden administration, right? I mean, he literally told us he's going to put the fate in TikTok in Donald Trump's hands.
Trump is still the one that delayed the TikTok ban.
Delivered emergency price relief to Americans struggling with the cost of living crisis because he cares about American citizens and their well-being.
Trump literally posted that Americans will feel pain from this tariff increase.
Yes, but what you left out of that article that you screenshotted is when he said, we may have short-term some little pain and people understand that, but long-term the United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world. In his executive order, they say the Biden administration not only exploded government spending, artificially and unsustainably stimulating demand, but it simultaneously made necessary goods and services scarce through a crushing regulatory burden and radical policies designed to weaken American production. In this, it says they will lower the cost of housing and expand housing supply, eliminate unnecessary administrative expenses and rent-seeking practices that increase healthcare costs, eliminate counterproductive requirements that raise the cost of home appliances, create employment opportunities for American workers, including drawing discouraged workers into the labor force, and eliminate harmful, coercive climate policies that increase cost of food and fuel. And I do think it is going to be a short-term issue when Trump implements these tariff policies. Prices are going to go up for a little bit, but this is what we have to do to get things to be made in America again. We have to rely on our own country. We cannot rely on China and Canada and every country around the world. We have to be able to do things ourselves because we have the ability to do so. And yes, we are going to pay a price for a short time, but it is going to be worth it in the long run.
I'm so tired of people comparing President Trump to Hitler. It is so clearly a fear-mongering tactic that people are using against us.
What are you talking about? Everything that Donald Trump has been doing is based on dictatorship. In fact, I think your video made a stronger argument on how Donald Trump is closer to Hitler than not.
Girl, what? Once again, guys, a dictatorship is where a ruler has total power over a country, typically one who obtains control by force. We voted Donald Trump into office. Trump is not Hitler. In this video, we have multiple things from Parker. He is a Democratic TikTok influencer, and he is reacting to a girl that seems to be a Republican.
American institutions are essentially left-wing indoctrination camps, and we know this to be true. You go in, you are inundated with left-wing orthodoxy, and you exit much more liberal than before.
So people become educated and become more liberal?
I hear this argument all the time in my comments whenever I talk about how when I went into SCAD, I was a conservative, and I very quickly became pretty radically on the left. I was around so many people that were on the left, and they convinced me that that was the loving and empathetic side, and if I was a real Christian, then I would really be on the left because that's what Jesus would have wanted. I do fully see the value in furthering your education and going to college, but leftists always make this argument that, oh, well, you became more educated and then you became a liberal. Republicans are so uneducated. That's not true. It wasn't because of my education that I went over to the left. It was because of the people around me and the radicalism of those people. and the unacceptance of any other ideas and beliefs, that's what seemed right to me at the time, until I truly did my own research and discovered that I was in the wrong in my thinking. Being left is what is popular among many students. Being on the right is what makes people not like you, not want to be around you, because it's seen as embarrassing, as ignorant, as closed-minded, when the left is truly the people that are being closed-minded. I will be friends with anyone, no matter what their political affiliation, religious affiliation, race, skin color, sexuality. I don't care. Just be a good person. And the left does not have that same viewpoint, and I've seen it time and time again. They will try to cancel you if you go to the right, and that is very terrifying for someone that is in a social setting. You want to make friends, you want to have a good time, college is the best 4 years of your life. It's terrifying to come out with a different viewpoint knowing you're going to lose everything that you've had, because I went through that, all because I said that trans women are men, which is a true and factual statement.
Why do they claim he's some kind of racist when those claims had never been made before he ran for president?
There was literally civil litigation against him for not renting to black people. So yes, there were the claims that he was racist before this.
Civil litigation is just a legal process that solves non-criminal disputes between two or more parties. Trump's spokesperson even said this suit was brought as part of a nationwide inquiry against a number of companies, and the matter was ultimately settled without any finding of liability and without any admission of wrongdoing whatsoever. Now, I will say black people have spoken out, saying at the time Donald Trump refused to rent to them on the basis of their skin color, and he denies it. But let's be honest, everyone's going to deny being racist when you get caught. But the other side of this is that they've also thrown every allegation against Trump, the assault cases, election fraud, racism, calling him homophobic, transphobic. These people will do anything to ruin his reputation. And that would be absolutely disgusting and not okay if he was refusing to rent to black people. But I'm just giving you the facts that I see from both sides. Maybe Trump has done racist things in his past and people don't like the way that he speaks, but he is not a racist person. He is married to a woman from Slovenia. He is a vice president that is married to an Indian American. He has done a lot of things for HBCUs. So even if he did racist things in the past, I do not think Trump is currently a racist, and I don't think it's fair to throw the word racist at him because he wants to save our border.
Why did they ban the president from Twitter for 2 years?
Literally January 6th. Do you forget?
Nobody forgot about January 6th, especially the left. Donald Trump posted that day, "Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful." Now tell me how that one's gonna get you banned. He was not inciting violence when Donald Trump told people to fight. He was saying, fight for our constitutional republic, fight for freedom and lack of censorship. He was saying, fight for the values that America used to have. He wasn't inciting physical violence. There was no reason for him to get banned from Twitter. He also posted this: "These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and peace. Remember this day forever." He did not incite violence. He did not have to be banned.
And then they tell all women, they fearmonger them into thinking that there's going to be an abortion ban. Meanwhile, his policy is very clear that he would never enact one. He would veto one if one was enacted. He's always supported the 3 exceptions.
Abortion bans have been left up to the states, and it's restricted women's access to abortion even in instances in which they've been in 9 states, there's no exception for grape, and in up to 3 states, the exception only allows for them to do it up to 6 to 8 weeks because of Donald Trump putting people in the Supreme Court with the explicit reason of overturning Roe versus Wade, and that's what they did.
So that is partially true. As of January 8th, 2025, the following states have abortion bans without exceptions for rape or incest: Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, and Texas. How did I just get 10? But that is because the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade because they found that it was not a constitutional right. These are the state's decisions. This is how we are supposed to run the country. Less big government and more small government. We should leave these decisions up to the states. If you don't like it, leave the state. And once again, Trump has said he will never do a nationwide ban, and he personally does believe in the exceptions. You also have to remember, conservatives in good faith view abortion as murder, not a human right. They view it as taking away human rights. The left views abortion as healthcare and a human right. And a lot of times a very empowering decision. So yes, Trump is going to be proud of nominating people who made that possible. I obviously agree with abortion when the life of the mother is at risk, but my thought process is that 2 wrongs don't make a right, and I know the physical and mental toll that abortions have on the women that go through that, and they don't talk to those women a lot about that when they go into those facilities and make that decision. it is promoted as a very empowering and free decision. And the truth of the matter is that it's not an empowering decision. It's an incredibly difficult and heartbreaking decision to make. But I also think that Republicans should have a lot more empathy to the women that make those decisions and go through that, because it is not an easy decision to make, despite what the very far left-wing influencers will say, where it's so empowering and you felt so good after it and all this stuff. No, it is incredibly heartbreaking and sad for the women that go through that. To make a decision to let go of the baby that you have started growing in your body, that is an incredibly heartbreaking and difficult decision to make. And I think we need to have a lot more empathy to the women that make that decision. We need to focus on getting programs in place that help support single moms and low-income families, and we need to focus on adoption and helping kids in the foster care system.
Him on every platform, they lie about his policies, they try to falsely imprison him, and then they try to kill him in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Who is they? Because he's obviously a registered Republican. And if you can't tell, the main person lying to you is Trump.
After the FBI identified the gunman who tried to assassinate Donald Trump, it was Thomas Matthew Crooks from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. He was a registered Republican, but he had also previously donated $15 to a Democratic organization via Act Blue. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not registering myself as a Republican and then going to donate to Act Blue. I have heard stories of people registering themselves as Republicans so that they can influence the decisions that are going on the right and try to mess that up. Maybe that's a little bit what was going on there, but I won't speculate. Another lie that I hear all the time is that Jesus was an illegal immigrant.
God's plan to show y'all the liar.
It makes me laugh how confident she is in this statement, because Jesus was literally not an illegal immigrant. Jesus' family was fleeing from one region of the Roman Empire to another. They were going from Bethlehem to Egypt. It is like moving from California to Tennessee. The Bible also talks about so much respecting a country's laws and borders. Matthew 22:21. Therefore, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. Romans 13:1-2 talks about how no one has the inherent right to violate another country's laws. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. And we talked about this in church a little bit, I want to say last week, about how we are supposed to respect a country's laws and borders. But if it got to a point where Donald Trump was saying you are no longer allowed to be a Christian or read the Bible in America, we are no longer called to listen to him, because the Bible comes above everything. We are to respect a country's laws and borders, but we are to put the Bible above all of it. God's word comes first before everything. And one of my favorite topics, which is a very exciting topic this week, because Donald Trump just signed an executive order keeping men out of women's sports. But the important thing to remember is that this was only for federally funded sports. So you still have private sports organizations, you still have the U.S. Olympic Committee, you still have different governing bodies that are going to allow males to compete in female sports. So the fight is not over yet. And I did want to take this time as well to show you guys the ad that we did for XXXY Athletics. It's called Real Girls Rock, and it is so powerful. We were on set so much in January. It was very long days. I will say, I have so much respect for people that are in the film industry and do 12 to 16 hour days all the time. I enjoy it so much when we have our little ads for work that we're filming, because I love our team so much. I love all the filmmakers, everybody involved in the process, and being creative and being around people. But it is very exhausting, and I just have a lot of respect for people are able to do that all the time. So before I get into this next left-wing lie, I will show you our ad that talks about not only the physical toll, but the mental toll that women go through when they are competing as athletes, but they are also standing up for women's sports and spaces. This is featuring Riley Gaines, Neely Gaines, JC Bassett, and Sia Leahy.
Riley Gaines and Sia Leahy are in hot water over their transphobic comments, and I just gotta say, who cares if biological males play in women's sports? Just be inclusive.
Could not agree more. This is just a bunch of fear-mongering from right-wing bigots.
That part of the ad where the text pop up on her phone is so true. I experienced that so much through my Instagram comments, even through my text, and through my design website of people telling me to kill myself, that they hate me, that they want me to die, that they want to rip my skin off, that they want to put me better, that they want to burn me alive. All because I don't believe that males can become females. That is what these girls are going through.
Gonna say it, she's a bigot.
She's been a massive distraction from her team with her hate-filled rhetoric. Sia is not inclusive. And males invading women's sports isn't even a problem, as far as I'm concerned.
These female athletes just need to work harder.
And not blame others for their lack of success.
Transphobe.
As the captain, Sia is very much responsible for these boycotts, which have cost her team a playoff bid.
Guess we'll see how Sia handles all that pressure tonight.
I get chills every time I watch it. I love that ad. We've done a ton of other amazing ads, so please go make sure to check them out at our Instagram at XXXYathletics. It's absolutely amazing, the ads we've produced. I've just loved being a part of this team so much. So with that being said, let's get into the women's sports debate. So this TikToker says, do you think trans participation is the biggest issue in women's sports? And she says, no, there are less than 100 trans athletes competing in schools in the entire country, which is factually so incorrect. I can't even explain it. If you go to shewon.org, I will read you what the website says. This website is dedicated to archiving the achievements of female athletes who were displaced by males in women's sports events and other types of competitions. One day soon, we hope their accomplishments will be formally recognized. Number of female athletes that have been displaced by a male, 764. Number of medals lost, 1,086. Number of competitions, 528. And number of sports, 40. And it has the entire list for you right here. It just goes on and on and on and on, listing the girls that should have won when they went against the male athlete. We are also seeing this at the professional level. We are seeing this at the Olympic level. We are seeing this in private sports categories, not just school categories. We are seeing this everywhere. So for people to sit here and say it's a non-issue, it is a complete lie and distortion of the truth. And I think that Caitlyn Jenner put it really well in this TikTok.
Trans women should not be competing in women's sports, bottom line.
If you'd have transitioned when you were at the height of your career, what would you have done, do you think?
I never would have done that. I wouldn't, no, I never would have. You got to I realize that if you're going through a transition, you're going through that. There's some things you can do and some things you can't do, okay? You can't say, I am not this trans person that goes, I am a woman and, everybody else just quiet down, and you better use the right pronouns. And I am not that, okay? I'm not even close to that, okay? I am a young person. I'm a person that suffered from gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is real, okay? It is real. And it needs to be treated in your own way. But it's very small. There's very few people in the country that really are truly gender dysphoric.
I also completely agree with him there. There's a very small portion of people in our country that truly have gender dysphoria. A lot of what we are seeing is a social contagion, is students and peers pushing it on someone. It is a parent pushing it on a child for views, for attention. We see this all the time, specifically with moms pushing this on their daughters and on their sons. It's actually really disgusting. So to me, even if it was one trans person in a female sports category and they weren't even winning, I would still say you shouldn't be competing. Biologically, you are a male and you should not be competing with females unless you are on a co-ed sports team where everybody has signed up for that. Girls don't want to compete against boys. I work out most days of the week. I run all the time. Every time me and my husband get into a wrestling match, you know who wins? My husband does. Even if he doesn't go to the gym as much as me, if he doesn't run as much as me, you know who could still probably beat me in a mile? My husband. Because Physically, he is stronger, he is faster, he has a bigger lung capacity, he has a bigger wingspan. There's just things that make males and females different. And this was another thing we were talking about in church this last week, about the differences in our gender and how it is a beautiful thing. And this is why God created marriage for male and female. He created each of us as a helper for the other, because each gender has something that the other doesn't. Women are innately nurturing, empathetic, homemakers, and men are strong. They are protectors. They often think with logic rather than emotions, and that is something we need. That's why in my marriage, all the final says are left up to my husband. Both of our opinions matter when we are making a decision, but the final say ultimately comes down to him, because I trust him to lead our household in a godly manner and to make a decision that will please the Lord. It's not that I don't trust myself to do that. When I gave my vows when we got married, I entrusted him with our family and with our marriage to make the right decisions for us. God says that men should be the leader of the household, and so I believe that men should be the leader of the household, and I believe that marriage is between a male and a female, and it is a beautiful thing that God created. Anyways, I got off onto a tangent, but the women's sports issue matters to me because I was an athlete for so long, and it was what got me through so much of high school when I was really struggling, knowing that at the end of the day I could go release everything I was feeling through running really hard and really fast and getting that workout in, and then competing and seeing those results that I'd worked so hard for. I remember I was one of the fastest girls on our cross country and track team for distance runners, and the mid group of males would have been where I would have fallen, not their fastest males. So if that says anything to you, one of the fastest girls is just as good as a mediocre male. And that is what we have been saying all along. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please let me know if you want me to react to more woke TikToks or debunking any left-wing arguments. I appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to follow the Patchwork Podcast on Instagram and subscribe on YouTube, and check us out on Spotify. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.